The Warriors of Chaos terrorise the world with a range of powerful mechanics. They're fun and all, but what if they could be overhauled in a simple and fun way? You guessed it, today let's take a look at the Warriors of Chaos in SFO, but if you want to take a look at these videos without any ads, consider becoming a member for just $1 a month. All the same videos, but none of the ads. First up, they have a number of changes that affect how they play in the campaign. Control now has more of an effect on regions, with high levels reducing enemy leadership and reducing warband upgrades faction-wide. You're still not a settlement-reliant faction, but you have a little bit more incentive to keep the ones you have as happy as possible. There's also several new buildings added to both all and certain specific factions. All have access to 3 new infrastructure buildings. The Arena reduces upkeep and grants passive experience to armies. The Marauders line brings upgrades for Marauders and Norscan vassals. And the Demonic Portal increases demonic physical resistance, magic reserves, research speed, defensive supplies, and the use of a new army ability I'll come back to shortly. There's also the 5 new Chaos Shrines, and which you have access to will depend on your faction leader and their alignment. Each of them brings bonuses specific to their own units and characters alongside the rest of the faction. They're initially free with an increasing cost for the maximum tier, but are well worth having to rush experience on your units. All armies now have access to the new Summoning Stance. This reduces campaign movement range to spread corruption locally and grants the army use of the Fires of Chaos Bombardment ability. And each of the commandments have also seen some changes to give them a little bit more diversity in their use. There's also been some minor changes to each of the legendary lords and the effects they bring to the faction. For the War Host of the Apocalypse led by Archaon, he keeps everything and gains cooldown reductions for heroes in his faction. For the Heralds of Tempest led by Kolek, he now has a much improved chance for Dragon Ogre recruitment to replenish in his settlements. For the Decadent Host led by Siggy, he can now summon demonettes during battles, and he gains added XP per turn and can make use of the Fascination ability in battles. Lastly, all units in his army gain Strider. For the Ecstatic Legions led by Azazel, he now reduces the leadership aura size of all local enemy characters, and am I really going to have to talk to the SFO developers as well as CA about aura size, damn it? For the Fecundites led by Festus, he reduces the movement range of enemy armies in the same province and causes all enemies to lose vigor faster during battle. For the Legion of the Gore Queen led by Valkyr, her army loses vigor much slower when in enemy territory. For the Puppets of Misrule led by Village, he now steals more XP from other lords, and their army has increased barrier HP when defending. And lastly, for the Shadow Legion led by Be'lakor, all characters gain a massive boost to armor-piercing damage when battling against other Chaos factions, and he suffers massive diplomatic penalties against all of Chaos. And lastly, all units in his army gain XP much faster and gain more leadership for every rank. Moving over to the units, and there's a couple of new faction-wide abilities for all undivided units. All of them in the roster now have 1 of 2 abilities during battles. Chaotic Crusade is applied to all non-elite undivided units, so things such as Marauders and Chaos Chariots. This grants them increased damage and vigor regeneration on a regular basis until they drop below 50% HP. Chaotic Blessing applies to all elite units and is essentially the same thing with doubled up effects. Very straightforward, it just means you're incentivized to keep units healthy a little bit more and makes undivided units a little bit more tempting. Each of the 4 marks of Chaos have also seen some slight changes. Whilst it varies from unit to unit, the changes they bring have been made more consistent across the board. Alongside Poison, Nurgle units usually gain more health and mass, Slanesh gain more speed and armor piercing, Khorne gain flaming attacks, frenzy and spell resistance, and Tzeentch have barrier and magical attacks. Again, this will vary, so it's likely some units don't fit into this summary, but in general, this is the aim. And lastly, we have 1 new unit, the Great Chaos Dragon. It's pretty similar to the mounts that most of the generic lords have access to, but with no abilities and a few stat differences. First of all, they have quite a lot more health and weapon strength, and they also gain magical attacks and a boost to attack and charge bonus, all at the cost of a little defense and leadership. Despite the lack of armor-piercing symbol, they still do great damage to tougher units through sheer massive base damage. The high attack with magical and searing flame makes them devastating in melee, and the massive charge bonus makes their landing have a lot of impact. Their defense and armor make them decently tough, but just keep an eye out for armor-piercing missiles, as a hitbox this large will be very hard to miss. Whilst the changes here are quite minor in number, it's not like the faction needed a lot to begin with. Back in the day, the Warriors of Chaos were absolutely terrible and they received a much larger number of changes in SFO. These days, the vanilla faction are actually pretty great, so minor changes are all you need. That said, even though the changes may be small in number, they still make a big impact. The new Chaos Shrines are a great addition alongside the other new buildings. I always find Dark Fortresses to be a little bit pointless in vanilla since you capture them and then keep on moving to keep yourself in the green. This made military buildings good for new armies, but not much outside of that, meaning I always ended up spamming income and growth. Now I have more options to buff different branches of Chaos and a lot more incentive to grow each settlement to max to get those really juicy benefits. I also very much like the additional buildings to provide XP. One thing I always struggle with is keeping Marauders alive to be leveled up to Chaos Warriors and so on, especially in a new army in the late game. These buildings help you grind levels in no time, whether they're sitting in settlements training or out in the world battling. I love the warband system, so these buildings giving you more opportunity to use it is a great addition. I also love the new Chaotic Crusade and Blessing abilities for undivided units. All the other branches of Chaos had their marks which made their units unique and left undivided feeling a little bit boring. Now they have something all their own and that makes them a lot more enticing to make use of. Lastly, the changes to each of the lords are very welcome to make them feel a lot more unique from each other. Bellicor in particular feels very fun as the outcast of Chaos who is basically against the entire world. Overall, it's not massively different to vanilla, but everything that has been changed is an improvement. There's really no reason I can think of that you should play vanilla rather than this. It's got everything you already love and a bunch of little things to make it all better. But what I want to know is, who do you want to see next in SFO? Let me know in the comments below, and if enough people say the same faction, they'll probably be next. Don't forget to like the video if you did, subscribe for more, and if you want more Warhammer 3 mod videos, then check out this one all about the Tigermen of Cathay.